Hignet's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be! Dack's corner, and it goes. Gladstone's goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to our post-match live stream following Rovers' hard-earned and decent home draw against Swansea City at home in this evening's tea time awkward kickoff. We are back here at Rovers Chat with a rebranded, refreshed and redone Rovers Chat, bringing you the same content as we always do after a brief spell inside the Matrix for our previous Twitter handle, God rest its soul. But we're here, we're back, we've done the watch along, we're here on the post-match and we're ready to digest a good Rovers performance tonight. So let us know how you are all thinking. Just a few things before I get the views of the panel again tonight. Just a reminder on our new Twitter handle. It is at @RoversChat_. So we have just simply moved that underscore from the middle and on to the end. So if you're not following us, please do follow our new Twitter account. Everything else is unaffected. So we're the same on YouTube. We're the same on Facebook. We're the same on Discord. Everything that we've been doing is absolutely the same. It's just our Twitter handle that has changed. So please do follow us if you haven't. And we'd appreciate any retweets or whatever as well, so you can spread the word. Because we had got to 5,000 plus followers. And yeah, it's a shame that we've lost those. But we'll rebuild and we'll keep doing it as we do. The new logo and the new imagery that we've got for the roverschat.com website. You can see the red rose there. Big shout out to Dan and to Joe today for all the hard work that they've done in rebuilding the site and rebirthing it after the little wobble that we had today. They've put in some great work to get that over the line today and get the content as we've done. And just a reminder to everyone, if you do want to call into the show tonight, you can do. We have got one guest lined up already, which is great. He will be with us very shortly. But if you do, yeah, call into the show, send a DM to the @RoversChat_ Twitter account, and you can come and join us on the panel and share your thoughts and your comments. But before we do get started, just a couple of brief reminders, of course. We are sponsored by Blue Rose Capital and also sponsored by 𝐒𝐿𝐎𝐻𝐿𝐻𝑜ut.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻𝑜ut.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thank you to 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻𝑜ut.com and to Blue Rose Capital for their very, very kind sponsorship. And just a reminder that we've got Super Chat available again this evening. We've had some Super Chats tonight, which was great. So I've got the fans wall ready for you just to say thank you to those of you that did contribute on the watch along. FM Works, Jill Harvey, Spiritual Gains and Ollie James, thank you once again for your really kind support to the channel, particularly after the day that we've had today. We really appreciate that, and that obviously gets ploughed back into our YouTube and whatever accounts. So we're really grateful for that support. So as we usually do, I'll just start with just some summary from our panel, and I'll dip into the comments as well as we do that. So Ollie, I'll come to you first. Sum up your thoughts after that game. Did you feel it was a good point? Were you happy with the Rovers' performance? What are you thinking?
Bit of a mix of emotions, really. On the one hand, you look, Rovers won, Swansea won, they're third in the league. You go, oh, that must be a good point. But part of me is quite angry with what happened with the referee. I don't want to labour that point too much. And quite frustrated we've not come away with all 3 points, because it probably isn't a good point, because it should have been all 3, I think. We were much the better side. I thought Swansea were very poor overall. They only scored from a penalty and they didn't really test 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻 too much otherwise. So there's kind of frustrations on that side of things. And probably one thing as like a grander point of where we found ourselves this season, that, and we've said before on previous streams, that we've not been, we're never a team that's kind of thrashed or really well beaten. And we've played a team that's third in the league who I've looked very ordinary this evening. And it shows you how small the gap is, really, that Swansea, they shouldn't have beaten Stoke, they shouldn't have beaten Middlesbrough, and they shouldn't have beaten Blackburn, but they have. But they've managed to get 7 points from those 3 games, and can count themselves very fortunate, and have generally been on quite a poor run of form, but still picking up points. And it's just, I kind of sat there reflecting on the context of how fine the margins are in this division. That that's their third in the league, and probably no doubt will be in the playoffs easily this season. But they know you can't finish that game today and think they're any better than we are. So it's kind of comforting in some way to know that we're not that far off, but then equally frustrating that we have ended up so far off the playoffs. But I think on the positives, I was pleased. I think I said in the last post-match, I'd be quite happy to see the same 11 start again. So I was quite pleased to see the side was unchanged, and rarely under Mowbray in the Championship have we talked about 2 very complete 90-minute performances where we've generally managed the game across from start to finish really well against 2 very contrasting oppositions. I know they both play 3 centre-backs from a tactical perspective, but I think Millwall and Swansea offer very different challenges, and it was quite nice to see what looked like a slightly unorthodox starting 11 at Millwall play so well and continue to play really well for another 90 minutes with some really good performances in there. So I was kind of really happy, and it's kind of pleasing just to see that as well, and some really notably good performances from Buckley was excellent, Tribal was outstanding again, and like a special mention for Harwood-Bellis as well. I thought he was really, really good in the back 4. Lenihan was excellent again, but I don't think he necessarily needs highlighting. I think it's probably more pleasing to see Harwood-Bellis having had kind of 3 starts there alongside him, to kind of looking a lot more settled and really competent this evening against what should have been very threatening opposition and someone like 𝐒𝐬. But in attack, Swansea were relatively quiet, I think. So just a mix, really. I'm sort of really sad that we haven't won the game, and we deserve to, but kind of overarchingly pleased. And I think I didn't really articulate it that well on the previous stream, that just kind of what I want to see from Mowbray from now until the end of the season is kind of not so much, I don't think it's something where we should be, trying to blood the youngsters and testing things out, because we've got a really young squad anyway. I think the things I was sort of saying was looking for a little bit of consistency and us managing games for 90 minutes and giving challenges to different types of opposition and coping with their threats effectively on consistently week in, week out. And it's very nice to have seen that happen over 180 minutes. But then on the other hand, the pressure's off us this season. We're not going down, we're not going up. And what often seems to happen is when things get pressurized from a top 6 perspective, we've fallen over. So it kind of makes you kind of think about that as well, that we're playing well again now, the pressure's off, but then I don't want to kind of do him a disservice that he's turned around a really horrendous run of form. And we're playing really well, but then I'm sure we'll get into it, and the guys will get into it, that there's a real conundrum now around, I thought Bradley Dack has been really, really good. We didn't highlight him that much against Millwall, but I thought he was really good again this evening, and he was really good because of where he is on the pitch. And both of those goals have come from him being on the edge of the box, wanting to get into the box to score a goal. And that's what he did before he was injured. And there's a big question mark about what to do when Adam Armstrong's back fit, if he's back fit for Brentford or the next game. It's quite interesting to think what we're going to do next, but I'll let others have their say. But yeah, bit mixed, but overall pretty happy because we played very well.
Thanks, Ollie. I'll just go into the comments before moving on to you, Glenn. So Newman Ali, great performance from the team. Play like that and you can see the team is going somewhere. Typical Rovers, start playing as soon as promotion chance has gone, lol. Yeah, sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it, Newman? Simon, Blackburn Rovers destroying 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿 since 1875. By remote, great performance against the top side, which we usually struggle against. 𝐒𝐻𝐻 seems to have gone now. Andy, I don't think it was a good point personally. Let us know if you agree with Andy's point in the comments, whether you think it wasn't a good point. I think Andy was hoping for the win and thinking we should have got the win with the level of performance. So let us know if you agree with Andy in the comments. Alexander Haben, we was robbed. If they get a penalty, we should too. Should have been 1-0 or 2-1 Rovers wins. Alex Isherwood, good performance tonight. Deserve more though. Autumn Penkridge, let's give this a go. Boyek Buko was play Gutja, I think is what you've said there. I hope I did well with that one. I probably didn't. And then Dizzy Thumbs, I'll take the point off such a good team. I tried to listen along, couldn't stay away. Sorry. Go Blackburn. Good on you, Dizzy, for joining us again, as you're probably getting up for your day in Australia now. So Glenn, I'm going to come to you then. Just sum up your thoughts on the game, how you're feeling after that. Good point, bad point, good performance. You know, how you feeling?
I think if you'd offered me a point before the game, I'd have snapped your hands off. But I think, like Andy said in the comments, I'm disappointed we didn't get all three. It's a weird feeling after this horrible run we've been on to kind of actually dominate a game and look like winning. I think recently we've dominated games without really having that threat up front. Whereas I think today we looked like scoring when we went forward, and I don't think we've had that too much during that run. I didn't see the game on Saturday, so that's the first time I've seen that 11 and that kind of team. And it looks like a completely different 11 to what I saw last week at Reading. And I think it just, we started, we were on the front foot, we were taking it to the opposition, and it was exciting to watch. I think I've always worried that the more free-flowing we are going forward, we're going to be exposed at the back. But we actually looked, touch wood, a bit solid at the back today, other than the penalty. I don't think there was much that Swansea really threw at us. Andre Ayew got his token goal against Rovers. Death, taxes, and an Ayew goal. That's what you can guarantee in life. A comment about an 𝐒𝐻𝐻𝐿 buster, just put it on Ayew to score against us. Always scores against us, even if he needs the ref's help. I think had we not won on Saturday, I'd be fuming if I was Mowbray. That performance, and that deserved 3 points. And I think for that referee display to arguably cost us that, if that had cost Mowbray his job, I think that's very harsh. And I think I do like to have a whinge about referees, but I thought he was especially poor tonight. Just awful. It's probably the best way to put it. I think that the fact he didn't give the one on Brereton after, what was it, kind of like 2-3 minutes, and then within 2 minutes he gives the same foul 20 yards further up the pitch, it's just frustrating. And you kind of, every time they go forward in the box, you're thinking, what's going to happen here? But take nothing away from it. I thought we were good. I'm disappointed we didn't get all 3 points, which is, yeah, that's quite a statement to say after the run we've been on. Just a few players to mention. I picked it up in the comments. I thought John Buckley was brilliant tonight. The worry with him is always a little bit lightweight. Is he too technical? But he showed to me today, and from some of the highlights I saw from Saturday, he will get stuck in. He will muscle into people, and he'll get the ball off him. And he gives us something different. I was speaking to somebody after the game about Joe Rothwell and saying, "Oh, we need to get Joe Rothwell, get us attacking a bit more." I think, well, Buckley plays in that similar position, but he's a completely different type of player. He's going to break it up, link the play, and pass it. Whereas Rothwell almost looks as though he feels he needs to be all action all the time when he gets the ball to try and contribute. I think I'm massively impressed with Buckley. I thought Dak was good. We've already mentioned. I thought back to his best, arriving late on the edge of the box where he needs to be. And I think there's something to be said in the comments there that all our players we're looking at giving new contracts to are suddenly getting a game and we're looking quite good. Is this the blueprint for next season? I'm not sure if Armstrong's fit for Friday. I'd be putting him back in. He'd be starting on the bench for me. I wouldn't change that starting 11. I think it looks exciting. It looks good. And just one last thing to touch on the defence. Let's go to Pep now and ask for Harwood-Bellis for next season already. He just slotted in. He didn't look phased. You didn't notice him there. He kind of looked like Branthwaite did for the first couple of games before he kind of had the couple of mistakes. But the thing with the defender for me is if you don't notice him, he's had a good game. And I think THB had a good game today. So, yeah, I'm optimistic again now. So that's good. I've got my optimism back.
Yeah, on THB, we said that on the watch along. Actually, someone in the comments asked us how THB was playing, and that's the compliment we gave exactly, that we've not noticed him. We were obviously noticing Dara because he was playing all those long passes brilliantly tonight. So you're noticing him. But yeah, THB was a good performance, and close to an assist for Bradley Dack as well, wasn't it? A good header down for him and a chance there. But no, thank you, Glenn. I'll just go back into the comments before we come on to Alex. Alex Forshaw at 8:30. Buckley played the best game I think I've seen him so far and was man of the match for me. Glenn, just agreeing with you. I think he showed tonight definitely that he's got the upper body strength. He can control the midfield against some good players in that Swansea midfield tonight. To get man of the match in a game like tonight is testament to John Buckley. So absolutely hats off to him tonight. Michael Pearson, proud display. Where's this been for a month? Yeah, it's a real shame, isn't it, Michael? If we just had that level of performance over the last month and not necessarily won all the games, or, we might have even had a few losses in there. If we'd just seen that performance level, I think we probably all would have coped with it a bit better. So it's nice to see the last two and see the reaction in the squad, definitely. Daniel Davies, golf, good point, Ollie. Positive performance showing we can easily compete with teams at the top end of the table. Equally, it's frustrating that we haven't done so enough this season. And then three more. Jack S, next season looking very positive with all these young players coming through and bossing games. Under 23s look to have a few gems getting ready to make the step up as well. Yes, they do. Matt, we might come back to this question actually. So do you think we're seeing the foundations being set? So remind me to come back to that question and we'll come back to it. And then one more comment. Mohammed, incredibly encouraging performance. We actually managed to string more than 3 passes at times. It's felt more fluid, hasn't it, over the last couple of games, Mohammed? We've had that slickness, we've had that drive, we've just looked a bit better. Maybe towards the end of the game we didn't, as we were pushing for that winner. Certainly first half, I thought we looked really good in attack, so it was nice to see that. Alex, over to you then. Just sum up your thoughts and how you're feeling about the game. Are you disappointed with the draw? Are you happy with the draw? What are your thoughts?
I don't really know what to say after all that. I think everything's been covered. I don't really think I can add very much to what's been said, but I think my overriding emotion is one of disappointment in the fact that I don't think the players got what they deserve tonight. I've said this so many times, and I'll get shellacked for saying it again, but I am a Rovers fan and I do want Rovers to win, even though I'm one of the more negative ones. And so when I think the players don't get what they deserve, it really upsets me in a way. And I thought tonight, I thought we had things taken out of our hands a little bit with factors that are out of our control. But what I will say is that I don't really think Swansea were very good tonight. I watched that game tonight, and my overriding emotion is, why can't we be where they are in the league table? That's my overriding emotion tonight. And so I'm delighted that we got a good performance again on the back of the good performance on Saturday, because we were very worried about not playing particularly well for around 2 months. So 2 good performances in a row is a good sign. Another point on the board, so that expunges any last embers of relegation, lurking in the background. So they're both very big positives. I think the negatives are that I think Mowbray's potentially found a way to fit Dack into this side too late. We've been talking about, extensively, haven't we, since Christmas, about how the hell does Tony Mowbray fit Bradley Dack into this team, because we know that when he's on top form that he's a seriously good player, and I think some Rovers fans have forgotten just how good Dack can be when he's on top form, and just how much of a game changer that he was for us in League One and the first season back. So I think there's glimpses of that now. Dack's starting to come back into form, which is a good sign as well. Coincidentally, when Armstrong's been out of the team, just an interesting thing to consider. But yeah, I don't really think I can add much more to what's already been said. I think it poses a lot of questions and debates around what we're heading towards next season. What I would say about, is it the makings of a good team for next season? I would say yes, it is. But I think we've had the makings of a good team this season as well, and we've not capitalised on that. I think we've made some stupid errors at different points in the season, and it's come back to bite us dearly, because I think, you know, if we just had 2 or 3 more wins at this point in time, I just think we'd have a great chance right now of getting in there and really having a, you know, I think we'd have as much chance in the lottery as anybody else. So, yeah, it's positive on one hand about the way we've played, the way that we've managed to steer the ship in the right direction again after looking like the ship was sinking very fast. But on the other hand, a bit of disappointment that we've not got our just rewards today, and also that ultimately all of this is kind of moot because we're not going up and we're not going down. So we're talking about 10, 11, 12 dead rubber games now, which again is a big disappointment. But yeah, I think that's something that we'll probably look back on when the season's over. But I think for tonight, it's about the performance, and I think it's also about some of the younger players coming to the fore, and you know, some of the young players that we'll probably be seeing a lot more of as the club goes forward and the club heads into next season.
Thanks, Alex. And in a moment, we are going to be bringing on our special guest who's coming back for a return performance. So we'll see who it is in a moment by the magic of StreamYard. Just my views on the game. I absolutely would have taken a point before the game. Like you, Glenn, I just think with the run of form that we've been on and the fact that Swansea are up there for a reason and don't concede many, I would have taken that point absolutely before kickoff. But I think even though we are outside of playoff contention now, we've seen a little bit tonight why we aren't in the top 6, because Swansea have been there for the taking tonight. Sheffield Wednesday at home have been there for the taking tonight. Nottingham Forest at home have been there for the taking tonight. Stoke City at home have been there for the taking. You know, all these teams that we can reel off where Rovers haven't quite had that clinical edge, haven't quite just been able to turn that performance level into that positive result, is ultimately why we find we are where we are in the table. And I will take the point now, because the last month or so has been dreadful performance-wise, but I'll take it. 4 points from the last 2. I'll take that, but I can understand why some are disappointed that we've not got the win, particularly with how the game panned out, particularly with the fact I don't think Swansea were completely on their A game today. I don't think Swansea particularly had many good chances, and it did just feel like they were a bit there for the taking today. So I get people's frustrations, but in these dead rubber games, Alex, as you say, I'll take it. It is what it is in terms of the result, isn't it? But we've got a basis that we can build on with those last 2 performances. So by the magic of StreamYard, I'm going to wave my hand. Here we go. Incoming call. Who is it? Ring, ring. It's Dave Park. Here he is. How you doing, Dave?
How you doing? You okay?
I'm good, thanks. I'm admiring those Polaroids behind you again.
Yeah, you got my house plant before as well, yeah?
There's more since you last joined us, so you've obviously been a bit trigger happy with the Polaroid camera there.
There's not much else to do, is there? So, yeah.
How you doing, mate? What's your views and your points for tonight, and any questions for us, I guess?
Yeah, it's an odd one, really. Thanks for having us again. Just thought I'd dial in after we lost last time. It might be nice to dial in on a draw, so I'll try and pick a win next time. But I don't know. I'm quite happy, really, which probably is a sad state of where Blackburn have taken me to, because I think in January I'd been a bit flat, really, chasing the playoffs with a 1-1 home draw against a team that felt like they were there for the taking. But I think Alex summed up my feelings perfectly in terms of, I see quite a lot of comments about people getting excited for next season, but I was excited for this season. We had Harvey Elliott this season. We've got a 20-goal striker this season, and I am looking forward to next season, which I shouldn't be. I should be looking forward to a push for the playoffs for the next 10 games. But all that being said, I suppose probably the last 3 games have been a little bit better. I felt Reading was a stick-on 0-0 draw, really. One daft, very uncharacteristic error that Elliott makes. We'd have got a draw at Reading, I thought. But the last 2 were much better. But I suppose my question, what I wanted to understand, get your guys' views on really was what do you think's been the catalyst for the change in results? Because I've sort of got the 9 games wrote down here, and I thought, QPR, Preston, Barnsley, Forest, Watford were poor. I thought Coventry was the lowest for me. That second half was flat. I mean, the way we let 40 minutes of a game just peter out into absolutely nothing was criminal for me. And I thought that was that felt like the bottom. But against Reading, it was a little bit better, even if probably a bit toothless. But Millwall, I thought we were great, and I thought again tonight we were pretty good. I just wonder what you guys thought was the main reason for the change in fortunes.
I think for me, Dave, the one thing I've never doubted is the commitment of the players and the commitment of the manager towards the club. And I think law of averages dictates that eventually a result will land for you. So these players do play for Mowbray. They've always played for Mowbray. The issue I've had with the manager in recent weeks is I don't think that he's got the X factor or that bit that we need to bridge the gap to get into the top 6. And some people will disagree with me on that. But that's my view. I don't think he's the one to bridge that big gap into these clubs that are in the top 6. So I think going to somewhere like Millwall away and being able to pick players like Joe Rankin-Costello, who's coming back from injury, John Buckley, who's been in and around the club for a long time, Tyrese Dolan, who's been chomping at the bit all season, being able to just inject that energy into the side and bring Bradley Dack, the talisman, into the starting lineup as well. They are all part of that wider group of players, and it just clicked, didn't it? It just all came together as a result of that law of averages. I did not see us going on a run, losing 15 odd games. It felt like we were going to, and I was getting really worried we would, but I was hopeful a result would land somewhere eventually. And I think that's ultimately because of what Mowbray's put in place in terms of that team ethos, that team spirit, and being able to have the options as well. Like Tom Tribal today, brilliant. And I said in the watch-alongs, all our midfielders this season have had these little spells. We've had performances all season from, we've had Johnson who's had a spell, Rothwell who's had a spell, Davenport who's had a spell, Holtby who's had a spell, Tribal's come in today and done well, Buckley's got man of the match. So we've just been able to bring in quality options, haven't we, to eventually get the result. It just landed. So I think Mowbray stuck to his guns, hasn't he? There was a slight formation tweak on Saturday against Millwall, but ultimately I think it was the hard work and the desire that this group of players and the pride that they had, that they didn't want this run to go on any longer. That's my gut feel. Don't know what others think.
I think what I would say is that I think after the Reading game, and it seemed to me at least that Mowbray was asking for the sack, but other than that, one thing he did talk about was getting runners into the box. And I think at Millwall, we managed to get those runners into the box again. And I think when you're playing badly, as we were for 6 to 8 weeks, the luck doesn't go your way. But what I would contest that by saying is I don't think we even got ourselves in the position to be lucky. And I think on Saturday we did that. We actually put the ball in positions where we could get a lucky deflection. I don't think we'd done that for 2 months. And so is there any surprise that when you do that you get a couple of lucky breaks on Saturday and then you get the result? And then I think the story of Mowbray's tenure at Rovers will always be, at least in my opinion, in the Championship, that we've gone through spells of winning 4 or 5 games in a row, and then we've gone through spells where we haven't. I go back to the 4 points in 11 games in the first season back, and we've had other spells of form where we've just really nosedived, and we've always managed to pull ourselves out of the nosedive by just getting that one result. And I just think that's what's happened is, you can't see the way that the players were playing for 2 months and say that there wasn't some loss of confidence there. And I just think 2 fortunate deflections on Saturday and a decent defensive display, we come away with 3 points. And then tonight we build on that, a bit more confidence in the side, and they play with a bit more freedom and a bit less fear, really. And I think that's really, I think, the root of the performance, that if you're thinking for 1 split second about which pass you're going to make, which is the best option, the option's gone. You need to be thinking almost instinctively to play at your full tilt and fluidity. So yeah, I just think it's that confidence from getting that win on Saturday, and like I say, we actually put ourselves in the position to be lucky. And I don't think we'd done that for 2 months. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me on that, but yeah, I just think actually getting players in the box actually increases your chances of scoring a goal. But yeah, I might just be the only one who thinks that.
I'll just quickly come in before someone else does, just to thank Byram for his super chat that he's just done. Thank you, Byram, for your support to the channel. It is there, Dan. I'll just click on it. There we go. Thank you, Byram, for that. Sorry, someone was going to come in.
Go on, I'll jump in. Yeah, I totally agree, Alex. I think we played a lot more kind of attacking football. We got forward more. And strangely, we seem to do that more without Armstrong in the last couple of games. I don't know. Armstrong's got a lot of pace, a lot of movement, but he does seem to play as that. I'm number 9. I'm going to stay up top. I'm not going to kind of go out wide to the channels as much as maybe you might notice it more with Dolan, because you can see his little legs running a bit more and he kind of gets around a bit. But there's a comment there from If in Doubt, Kick It Out. Do you think we played our own game in the last 2 games rather than trying to match the opposition? And I think that's spot on that. I think Mowbray's got to the point where he can't not win a game now. He's got to kind of turn results around. And he said, you know what? Let's give it a go. And I've said this for weeks. It's kind of like fed up with turning up to a game and seeing us go not to lose and to defend the opposition instead of taking the game to the opposition. And the fact that we've been able to do that today against Swansea, who they kept telling us was it half the games have been clean sheets? And if you'd have told me that on today's evidence, nowhere near. They weren't that great. But that's the thing, is take the game to them. And I think in terms of what's changed, in answer to Dave's question, I think forcing his hand a little bit with the injuries. I think you can't drop a 20-odd goal a season striker. You just can't. Questions are going to be asked. But having a convenient injury, shall we say, that allows him to take him out for a couple of games and try something different, not only does it kind of spice up our changing room a little bit, it gets the opposition thinking as well. If I'm Millwall manager on Saturday and I see that 11, I'm thinking, I don't know where Tyrese Dolan's playing. I don't know whether Gallagher's going to be through the middle, where Brereton's going to be. Is Buckley going to be a deep midfielder? Is he going to be a number 10? I don't know. And it just changes it a little bit. And I think that's helped him out. And also the 6 changes, having the ability to say to some players, you're going to sit this one out because Joe Rankin-Costello's back now, so we're going to give him a game, or we're going to give John Buckley a game. It just keeps people on the toes a little bit. And then when you like Sir Lewis Travis come back in, who one of my favourite Rovers players, I think he's all action. He's now got to go in and win his place back. So you've got, like we said, you've got 10 meaningless games for the rest of the season, but they're not meaningless to those players because some of them are playing for a contract, others might be playing for a contract elsewhere. You've got a lot of motivation in there, I think, and I think, yeah, Mowbray was quite lucky in the hand he's been dealt to be given that opportunity for a bit of a free hit at Millwall. But like I said before, you've kind of grasped that now. You can't really change that 11. One of my big complaints all season has been the chopping and changing. You mentioned a whole host of midfielders we've got through this season. Just find something that works and stick to it while you can. And that happened at the back where we had the run of, I think it was 3 clean sheets. And we've seen it in the last 2 games with that same midfield. I was petrified on Saturday seeing Buckley in there against Millwall. It's kind of like, it's a bit of a baptism of fire, that. But then you see him and he's rose to the occasion. For me, you can't drop any of those 11 players now ahead of Friday on the back of that performance on Saturdays, regardless of who's fit.
And those 6 changes have come in, Glenn, haven't they? And they've made a difference. You know, they've been part of the group. And I think that is where Mowbray's man management does have its plus points by investing in the group in the way that he's done. You're not getting people throwing their toys out the pram. You know, Lewis Travis could easily have gone, hang on, you were bringing me in at the first opportunity at Birmingham away and telling the press that I'm your most important player. And now you're putting Tom Tribal, a low knee, and John Buckley, who's not played all season, in the side. But he's not had that type of throwing the toys out the pram response, has he? It's been a really good group investment. And I do think that is the plus side of his management. But the downside is, does it have the X factor? Does it have that killer instinct to get into the top 6? So it's kind of twofold for me, that.
I'd argue it does, because it takes a big manager to change it so much for those last 2 games and the changes he made. I think in terms of X factor, you've got to have some balls to do that, and he did it. And my worry with Mowbray is he's done it now and he thinks he can do it every week, whereas just stick with what you've got, kind of thing.
But it'll be a big manager now to keep some of them players out, I think, wouldn't it? Some of those names we've said. It'll be we'll see how he goes. But no, good. What's your thoughts, Dave, on the?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things really. I think So Dolan's completely stunned me. I was really critical of starting the Millwall game to see him through the middle. I've been crying out for the two big 6-foot centre forward strikers that we paid a lot of money for to play in a centre forward position. Felt natural, but completely wrong. Dolan's looked brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So happy to be proved wrong on that one. I think the key thing that always wound me up was he always talks around the fullbacks pushing on and getting crosses in. I felt Bell when he was playing, Douglas a lot of the time, to be honest, Nyambe as well, that their delivery wasn't good enough. Nyambe's great at charging down the line and get the odd assist, but consistently our crossing wasn't great, whereas actually Buckley in the past few games has really got into those positions and really put some good balls across and created goals. So I think that's made a bit of a difference. And then I think Dak, really, if you think about Dak's best goals, they're within where the goals are. He's central, doesn't score them from cutting in on the left and bending them in like Armstrong or Elliott. He's a very much a bit of a Frank Lampard, I suppose, in a way. Stays very central, times that run, as he has done the last couple of games, really. So I think getting him into those positions has been really key. But I think it's just the wide players. I think Douglas has been quite quiet in this last couple of games, and he's been probably one of our better players since the turn of the year. But I think on the other side, I think Rankin Costello's been great, absolutely fantastic. I think Brereton and Gallagher take it in turns having good games at the moment. It'd be great if they both fired on the same day for me, but I just think we've just looked a bit more like our old selves, just playing like we should. And I think the only question I suppose it brings me to is obviously just look at the table now, we're on 44 points. You probably argue we're 2 wins off mathematic safety. At what point do you consider not playing the loan players anymore if there's no hope of signing them? And I know you could drop Harvey Elliott and then you would never get a player like Harvey Elliott again because other clubs would see that and think, why would I loan him? But is there a point where we think Douglas, Tribal, Branthwaite, Howard Bellis and Elliott, do we consider playing our own if there's no hope of signing? I know Douglas could be an option, I suppose. I think his contract's up in summer at Leeds, so maybe he's an option, but I don't know. I just wonder, do we maybe pull them out of the limelight soon and start playing our own players? I don't know. It's a tricky one. I don't know what your thoughts were.
I'll let Ollie answer that one, as we stole in on the previous one.
No, yeah. I don't know, just very quickly, my only thoughts on the changes were probably credit Mowbray tactically very quickly, that we've often talked about, how many better right backs are there than Nyambe. Then I'm not sure what that makes JRC, because he's come into the side and done more. So, it's a nice problem to have. I think a lot of it stems from Tom Tribal. I think Andy and somebody else in the comments on the last stream, it was some really good comments, just noting that of all of our defensive midfield options, he's the one that has utterly no desire to go high up the pitch. His discipline in front of Lenihan and Harwood Bellis in the last 2 games is to be applauded. If you don't have that foundation, Buckley and Dak don't get to do what they've done in those last 2 games. And you cannot understate how important it is what he's doing. And the fact he was outstanding again today, but I can't really note anything. I can't talk about a moment of note, but that's the entire point. He's just screening, winning interceptions, simple passes, getting out of danger, and that's all you need. And it allows, I think the reason we've been more effective in the final third is that has allowed Buckley to link midfield and attack, and it's finally left Bradley Dak to do exactly what he needs to do. Dak's not, I'm going to take it past loads of players and score stunners. He's not, I don't know, he brings like tenacity and gets involved in the emotion of the game, and that needs to happen in the final third. And that's what I saw against Millwall and against Swansea, that, when he was played out wide on the left, or was previous games coming deep to try and find the ball, there's no point. And whether it's just an Armstrong thing or not, getting him in that final third, just to be involved in the game and cause problems and take the fight to the other team, that's where you need him. And in a weird way, Dolan instead of Armstrong seems to have given, I'm always quite critical of Gallagher, but they seem to be instead of wide attackers, you've got these tall, wide strikers playing second fiddle to your main goal scorer, Adam Armstrong. They just seem to have a bit more emphasis playing with Dolan. I can't really put my finger on it, but it wasn't so much, oh, it's Gallagher and Brereton, but Armstrong needs to score the goals. It seemed to be a more cohesive front three of roles and responsibilities instead of it's Adam Armstrong needs to score the goals. But in terms of playing the loanees, probably touch on what Glenn said. I think last season, never in a million years was Tosin not going to be bought by a Premier League team. I don't run the Man City Academy, but I don't think 𝐒𝐎𝐍𝐻𝐻 is destined for a move just yet. I would be trying to line up that loan for next season. Tom Trybull is surplus to requirements at Norwich City. I probably expect them to be in the Premier League next season. They've got no need for him in the Championship. They've certainly got no need for him in the Premier League. So they're probably two that I'd be inquiring about next season already if I was the club. But then beyond that, yeah, I probably would stop playing Barry Douglas because I suspect he's probably, I'm not sure what his wages were like at Leeds, but in terms of bringing him over as a permanent signing on a short deal at he's going to be 32 next season, I've not been massively impressed with him. He's been, he's either been a disappointment or sort of decent-ish now, but Swansea's best moments came from his areas this evening, and that's not the first time we've said that, but it wouldn't bother me to see him kind of take a step out of the side from a loanee. Harvey Elliott, I think it's a tough one. I think, Dave, exactly as you say, I think if Mowbray continues to be our manager, I think part of the reason we're allowed to loan someone like Harvey Elliott is you play him. I think there's probably some sort of unwritten elements to him being with us he has to play an expected number of games. And yeah, you don't want to damage a relationship by just benching him and saying, oh, we don't want to use him for the last 10 games because we want Tyrese to play right through to the end of the season and we need to fit Adam Armstrong back in. It's tricky because as long as you maintain the relationships, but I completely agree with you that he is not going to be with us next season. And so as long as it doesn't damage relationships that we are going to rely on again in the future, because we can't kid ourselves, our squad is always propped up a little bit by loanees. It's a really important part of being in the Championship, I think, is getting effective loans from Premier League sides. But no, yeah, that's probably how I'd say it. I would really, really hope, I'd look at Trybull and 𝐒𝐎𝐍𝐻𝐻 for next season, actually, would be my main thing.
So I suppose on that one, Oliver, so if Trybull's available in the summer, how much would you pay for him?
I don't know, actually, because you think you've got to... Because I think Bradley Johnson's fantastic, but I think, yeah, I'm not sure where we stand with him, and he's not getting any younger. We've got Lewis Travis, of course. I think Davenport's been excellent, but Trybull, if that's the level of performance we're going to get out of him in that position and that discipline, I couldn't put a value on someone like that. I'm not even sure where Norwich rate him. I don't know, 2-3 million. I can't. It doesn't seem. I'm not sure where.
There's no way I'd pay that much money for him.
But no, I'm thinking of the realistic valuation. I'm not saying that's what I pay for him. I'm saying what would Norwich want for him. I can't.
How long has he got left in his contract?
I'm not sure actually. It's a good question. But let's say Armstrong's gone for 15-20 million. If Norwich said, "Oh, you can have him for 2.5 million," that doesn't seem too bad in my view. Alex is very unhappy.
But we only spent 500 grand on Thomas Kaminski.
Exactly,
that's the benchmark.
We've only spent and we've only spent 600,000 on Pickering, who's coming in for next season. What I would say is I heard Joe say on the live stream, I think on Saturday, that if we could get Tom Trybull in on a free transfer, that he doesn't think he'd be worth 10 grand a week. I actually disagree with that. I think he would be worth 10 grand a week. particularly if you look at the players that we're going to be potentially losing this summer. I think if you're losing Corey Evans, for example, who will probably be on at least that much money, I think that swap wouldn't be a bad swap personally, but I think that we've probably come to the end of that discussion on loan players rather than trying to drag it out even more. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm always sticking my oar in where it's not welcome. Sorry.
No, I actually just had a look. Norwich got him on a free, and he signed a new deal. He's contracted till June 2022, but they got him on a free.
Hmm.
There we go.
But he is contracted.
Good discussions there, Dave. You fired
Yeah.
off a load of them into the ether.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, mate. Really appreciate you joining us and offering your views. And I'm going to try the magic of StreamYard and send you back into the Matrix. And we'll download you again at another point.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
See you later.
Thank you.
There we go. Just like that, he's gone. So good discussions there, particularly about the loan signings. Absolutely. I think Harwood Bellis is absolutely one we've got to be trying to get. He's not ready for the City first team yet, so I think another season at us would be great. It's just whether they see that Prem club as the next progression, we'll see. But if we can get him, so I'd be playing him, absolutely. Tribal, for me, I think we've got an interesting dilemma in midfield, haven't we? Particularly with our cash flow. We have got a lot of midfielders at the moment. All those that I listed earlier. What are we going to do with Lewis Holtby? What are we going to do with Bradley Johnson, etc., etc.? So I think we've just got to figure out what's going on. But I would love to keep Tribal because I think he is the one in our team that is the deepest lion. And I've said that before. I really like the role that he plays in this side. Just really sits there and really does allow those others to go and do their thing. So he is one that I'd be trying to sniff around. And with a year left on his contract, maybe we could get a decent price for him.
We need a live stream just on the contract situation, right?
Oh, we do.
Yeah, end of the
Barry
season.
Douglas is an interesting one because as much as Harry Pickering does come with a good reputation, having an experienced head in the dressing room, you cannot undervalue that. And if we can get him on a free, and I don't know, we'll see. I think Douglas is one to watch, but we need a left back because Amari Bell's going. So I just think Pickering plus a youth team left back for me might feel a bit risky. So I think I'd like Douglas to stick around just as a bit of support for Harry Pickering or someone else experienced. So Glenn, I'm going to come to you next. I'm scrolling along the bottom, parts of the quotes that Mowbray has given tonight to the Lancashire Telegraph. And this is the type of stuff that grates on me because we know that the performance level hasn't been there over the last 9 games. That losing run that we had at times was poor, particularly in terms of the shots we were having, the attacking intent we were showing. What do you think happens next in terms of Rovers? Alex has said we've got the dead rubber games now going till the end of the season. We're talking about what to do about players next season, whether we sign them on loan, etc., etc., etc. At what point do we all as fans accept that this man is the manager for next season and just forget all that talk and get behind these lads ready for next season? At what point do we reach the point of no return because it becomes a massive job in the summer if you're doing the manager and the players at the same time?
I'm quite pleased I've got splinters in my backside from the conversations about Mowbray over the last few weeks now. Because I think after that performance today, and I mentioned it earlier, and the one on Saturday, I don't think you can sack him now. I think he's done enough to show, look, I'm still the man that can get results out of this team. I've built this team, and I can go and take on the team that's third in the league and give them a game and arguably deserve to win. I think, just to kind of rewind the clock a couple of weeks, if you'd have changed Mowbray and somebody had come in and we hadn't had these 2 results, that does become a very long downward spiral that continues into next season. Whereas if you, and I'm going to get pelters for this, I know, but if you stick with him now, he'll get, let's say he gets a good run to the end of the season and we finish on a high, we finish top half and we've got all the momentum. You're always going to get people that say, he's just papering over the cracks. It was the same last season. But it's a gradual process where we are as a club. We aren't a team that's going to suddenly turn up one season and fly into the top 2 and get promoted. It's going to take a few years to do that, and it's got to be sustainable. And the way to do it sustainably for me is your likes of Dolan, your youngsters that we're bringing through from the academy, you are getting the game. You're feeding your Breretons, your Gallaghers, and when you have got a bit of money, you spend it wisely. But we're not going to go out and romp a league, no matter how much we want us to. And I think with Mowbray, you've got that potential over a number of years to get a little bit better, and all of a sudden you are in the playoffs, and then maybe you're getting beat in the semis of the playoffs, and then you get to the final. And I think the journey's there. It just might take us a long time to get there. We all want instant success, but it doesn't always work like that. And I still believe he's the man for Rovers. And the comments he's made, I can see where he's coming from to a degree. We were pretty poor against Barnsley and Preston at home. I think I could see it if he was saying we were good for half of the pitch. I could take that in terms of keeping the ball well, passing it around without being brilliant at the front or brilliant at the back. But I wouldn't say we were great against those teams for a half. His comments are a bit frustrated at times, but he's not going to come out and say we were shocking after we've just drawn. He is going to try and kind of keep that momentum going with the players. So I think I'm kind of firmly behind Mowbray still. He's earned the right to the end of the season. I've said that before. If the end of the season comes and we've won 4, 5, 6 games and we finish top half, I'm happy with that. I didn't have any kind of delusions of playoffs this season, regardless of who we brought in, given the situation with COVID and whatnot. I think finishing maybe on a better points total, higher up than we did last season, if that's possible, is a step in the right direction. And you have to see that as progress. And yeah, we've had this horrendous run, and the history books do say we have this horrendous run every season. But I just think it's too much of a gamble to change it. It'll take us a while to get there with Mowbray, but I think we've got a better chance of getting there ultimately down the line. Just to pull it back to Tom Trybull, I remember when we signed him earlier in the season, Andy Watson made a comment that if he scored for Rovers, he'd be doing some sort of naked streaking through Blackburn. So when he got to the edge of the box tonight, I was thinking, do I want him to pull it through to Dak, or do I want him to have a pop? I'd quite like to see the embarrassment of Andy running through the town centre, but ultimately I was glad he played Dak through. But on that basis, I'd love to see us sign Tom Trybull and be on penalties next season. That would be fantastic.
We've not really spoken about the players much tonight, and I do want to finish the stream talking about the players, because I think the Mowbray situation is going to keep dividing fans, and results like this ultimately don't help. We know that next season we might lose certain players, etc., 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 etc. So I just want to end it there. I do want to talk about the players tonight. So Glenn's just mentioned it. What an assist from Tom Trybull, by the way. I mean, on the watch along, I was just like, I called it sexual, because it was. It was just an outrageously good assist. So brilliant to see from him, and a good goal. But Alex, I just want to come to you. Let's talk about John Buckley, because we've spoken, Dave raised the points about what's changed, what's different in these last 2 results. Joe on the Rovers Analytics account has done all the stuff about John Buckley and whether he's strong enough, technical enough, all of those types of things. Have you seen performances from Buckley in these last 2 games that he could become a certain starter in our midfield next season? What's your views?
I'll address that point. I'll just make a quick segue to you're describing the assist as sexual. Well, anyone who isn't on our Rovers chat group chats, I'd just like to inform you that Ryan often refers to, or at least his autocorrect refers to, these as love streams, and it does make me quite concerned on occasion about what I'm actually participating in. But just thought I'd out Ryan there for everyone. But in all seriousness, I'll divert back to the point. When John Buckley signed his new deal, I wouldn't say skeptical of it, but I always feel like some of the hype around John Buckley from the manager has often exceeded what has actually been produced on the pitch. I always feel like it's more of a player that's been seen as being very good in the under-23s team, but has never really stood out and imposed themselves at first team level. And you contrast that to the likes of, I'll just throw a few examples out. Dolan this summer when he burst onto the scene, just took everyone by surprise. And then when Lewis Travis first got his appearances in the first team, you could tell straight away that these players could actually adapt to the level and fit in and be a part of things going forward. With John Buckley, there's always been that uncertainty where I've had my Glenn Entwistle style splinters about John Buckley. I can never work out whether he's going to make it long term or whether he's going to be one of those players that you have high hopes for, but they never really achieve their full potential, or what their full potential is build up to be. What I would say about him is that I know that when he signed his contract, that he did come out in the local media and say, this is my responsibility now. If I want to make a career of this, and if I want to become a first team player for Rovers on a week in, week out basis, then it's my responsibility that when I'm picked for this team and when I get chosen, then I will produce and I will show that I can actually adapt to this level. And you would have to say that on Saturday, at least, it's the first time I've ever seen Buckley and I thought, I actually think he can do this long term. And I think tonight I saw that again. So what I would say is that it's been 2 very good performances. I want to see more. I want to see it more regularly. And if we see between now and the end of this season that more regular and that more consistent performance level, then I've got no reason to doubt that I think he can, be a player for us going forward. And I wish him all the best. I think it's good that academy lads get a chance in our team. I think it provides encouragement and that pathway right through the club. And I think it gives all of the young lads encouragement. So yeah, I hope that he does make it, and I hope that he keeps playing the way he is playing. I don't think there's anything else to say other than that I can think of. But yeah, really impressed tonight. And I thought, yeah, overall, you'd probably, him or Tom Tribal, I think you'd be struggling to pick a man of the match between those two for me. But I'd say that Buckley probably just edges it for me. But yeah, really, really impressed.
And Ollie, I promised I'd come back to Matt's question, so I'll just ask it here. We've had all this discussion now about contracts, what we do next season, etc., etc. So Matt's question earlier on was, do you think we're seeing the foundations being set for our starting 11 next season? So Dave asked the question about the loan contracts and all of that. Is this what you would be doing? Dolan, Dak, Buckley, JRC, starting the majority of games between now and the end of the season? Is this the foundation that is being set?
It's a good question, and the straight answer is yeah, I hope so. I've always liked, just as Alex has said, I've sort of quite liked Buckley whenever I've seen him, and I think Alex and I were actually at a game together when maybe ended up with a bit of sort of warped perspective. It was Huddersfield away where he was literally bullied out of the game, and we lost really badly. And maybe that's kind of left bad memories of he's not physical enough. But whenever he's on the ball, I've always really liked what I've seen. And I'm a huge, huge fan of Joe Rothwell. But Buckley's they are slightly different players. I think Rothwell offers a bit more direct drive up through the pitch. Not saying that Buckley can't dribble and take players on. Just as some of his technical touches in the last 2 games and the way he receives the ball in tight spaces and makes very, very clever decisions with the ball, you sort of think, wow, yeah, I want him in every game for the rest of this season, and he needs to be in our midfield next season. I think Dolan's such a surprise. Matt's right. I think he's just demonstrating how much he's got to offer for us. I mean, forget people just the pure effort on the pitch and his running and willingness to work hard for the team are minimum requirements for me as a professional footballer. But it's just never in doubt with him. His enthusiasm to be playing, but he just brings quite a lot of quality as well. And Dak is Dak. Yeah, we all love him. It was very odd to see him get back somewhat fit and look a little bit lost in the side and playing in odd parts of the pitch. And to see him for the last 2 games just doing exactly what he needs to be doing and scoring twice is it's a relief more than anything to kind of go, okay, yeah, that is Bradley Dack. Today he was everything that he should be. Actually, I think he'll probably be kicking himself. He didn't do better with that low header. Actually, I think it's probably a better chance than it looked at the time. I think he's maybe a little bit nervous about the defender, but I think Bradley Dack in 5 more games' time is nodding that into the far corner or driving it down into the near post. There are some really promising signs. I think we can't speculate about what will happen to players, but you do get the impression that Nyambe perhaps wants more money and a better contract that we can't afford. That's really sad. He's one of my favourite players. He's one of our best players, but we have such a good replacement, and we know he's going to be here next season. And people have been talking about Dan Pike as well. He was very good for the under-23s again. If next season is you've got JRC and Pike waiting in the wings, that's not a problem for me in the slightest. And if Nyambe wants and his agent want to get him more money and a contract somewhere else, then we're not going to begrudge him that. I'm not sure. I can't see him in the Premier League necessarily, but I think you guys talked about it on the stream, and I probably agree. If a West Brom come down maybe and they can afford to pay him 25k a week and that's what he wants, then fine. Armstrong, tricky one really. I suspect he may go, he may not, but he scored a lot of goals for us this season, and have we proven in the last 2 games we can score goals without him? Yes. We had to do the same thing without Bradley Dack, and Armstrong stepped up, but we do need, in some respects, we do need to make considerations for not having those 2 players, and the guys that have played in the last 2 games have done a really good job. I just, we've talked about earlier on that, frustrated we've only drawn tonight. There's that little bit niggling me that I think Brereton's lob, I think when Dolan picked up the ball and shot wide, he just didn't quite get his foot round it. And when Harvey Elliott received the ball on the edge of the box and tried to sort of dink across to Dack, Armstrong scores at least one of those, and we win the game. And that, you get those little, Armstrong lobs the keeper and it goes into the middle of the goal for me. And those are those little things where, have we looked really good without Armstrong? Yes. Would he have scored one of those chances tonight? Also, yes. So it's tricky really, because whatever happens next season, if we don't have someone like him, he has scored a lot of goals, and we need to ensure we are consistently scoring goals, or else you're not going to win enough football matches. So, but yeah, just to close on Matt's question, really, really encouraged by what we've seen. I think we all are. And I'm completely with him on like those 5 that he mentions. Yeah, I do think they need to kind of form the structure of a team with some of our others, like a Lenihan, Kaminsky, and a few others, where you think, right, we're starting to see the building blocks possibly of a really good 11 maybe for next season.
Thanks, Ollie. I'm just going to go into the comments before I'm going to give Glenn the final word on the final bit. So Matt making the point, I don't think Armour's sale will be reinvested because of COVID. Besides, Dolan could be a breakout player for us next season. Alexander, keep it up, Buckley. I've got a huge amount of time for him as a player. Hunter's Army, as much as I love Nyambe and think if he goes, JRC is just as capable and sadly slowly becoming my preference at the right back position. Yeah, they're 2 completely different right backs, aren't they, Hunters? Nyambe's all about that driving down that right-hand side, where Rankin Costello can find that pass, can create chances from that right back area. So they are 2 different players in that sense, most certainly. Matt Buckley has been very patient with his chances. He's been very impressive of late. And Alexander pointing out that he's looked physically stronger recently. Chris, Buckley is a young Lewis Holtby with a Blackburn accent. Love that. But making the point that JRC and Pike plus Nyambe money is a win-win. Yeah, that could be a good little trade there, Chris, if we can get something for Nyambe. Michael, really good point here. I read everyone's comments, and in the main, we're talking about our young players that have come through. Be optimistic. There is far more to come from them. Certainly the stuff we've seen in the under-23s, Michael. Lots of reasons to be positive. And then Simon, we have to learn when to best sell players too, when there's value for them. Sell Nyambi and Armstrong for me. And Simon, I 100% agree on this. I've covered this on previous live streams, that we have to get back to that really effective trading club model and do like what Brentford have done, for example, where you just plan for that big sale every 18 months to 2 years, because it's absolutely about that, making sure that the contracts are right, and just selling one to then reinvest in the club. And we did that really well in the Premier League. When you think of players like Roque Santa Cruz and David Bentley in particular, bought for small amounts and sold for big amounts, really sustained the club for a good period. So that trading model for me is a really important thing. And Glenn, this leap year man's point here really ties in nicely what I was going to ask you. Chuffed to be disappointed with a point against Swansea. Absolutely leap year man. After the last month or so, I'm chuffed to be disappointed as well. But Glenn, I do want to just come to you. The referee tonight, I thought was pretty shocking. And I've read on Twitter that he's a Premier League referee as well, which really shocked me. But some of the decisions tonight just progressively got worse and seemed to favour Swansea more. And I think the one that made me the most irate was when Dolan and Gallagher played a 1-2 with each other, and Cabango brings down Gallagher as he's on the run. Any game of football, the ref gives a yellow card. I don't care what level it is, that's the booking, and chooses not to book Cabango. And then lo and behold, Cabango then goes and gets booked for a challenge about 10 minutes later, and it could be a different game if we're against 10 men. So this could have been different, couldn't it, had we got that early penalty that I actually think we should have had, etc., etc. What did you make of the referee tonight?
It's not a surprise. He's a Premier League ref. He was bad. That's generally a sign they've been in the Premier League. He's obviously looking for the benefits of VAR and not getting it. I thought that the one on Brereton, I thought, I've seen him given, I've seen him not. If I was a Swansea fan, I'd probably be a little bit...
I'll just come in on it. At the time, I thought it was like, yeah, 50-50. When he then gave the foul against Brereton with Gay, that really annoyed me. And then he's put his line in the sand there, hasn't he?
That's what I was just about to say. Is the fact he then gave it 2 minutes later for the exact same thing, 10 yards further out, when it's a meaningless free kick, is kind of, how can you be so inconsistent? I think I actually messaged someone saying, how can you be so inconsistent after 19 minutes of a game? There isn't enough time to be inconsistent in 19 minutes, but he managed it. I think Cabango, the more I look at that challenge on, I think it was John Buckley, the more it's a red card for me. He's tackled him, and his leg is at Buckley's waist height. And I mean, he's come across him. The guys on the commentary were saying, oh, it's a scissor tackle. He shouldn't really be doing that. It's an amber card. It's a high tackle. For me, it's a red. I've seen players be sent off for that. But I just thought he was really poor. There was the penalty, which he didn't give us, and then he gave them, which was incredibly soft. I don't think we've probably touched on that enough tonight. I think Gallagher's swung for the ball, but he's not touched the ball, and he's also got nowhere near the man who's thrown himself to the floor, and the ref was quick to give it. But it just got laughable at times, some of the decisions he was giving, and other ones he wasn't. There was the foul on Buckley before the penalty, just wave play on, no foul there. Stuff he was pulling back when he should have played on, stuff he was playing on when he should have pulled back. It was just, again, they mentioned on the commentary, he just didn't have very good football knowledge of game management in terms of when to let the player go on. There was one in the second half where he played on, and we ended up going 30 yards back to Kaminski, and it's like, where's the advantage there? It's just really poor refereeing. And I mean, I've watched Premier League football. I don't think, like I said, they're any better in that division. They have VAR, which should get them out of trouble, but just makes it even more confusing. So, it's just disappointing. I feel like I mentioned before, if Mowbray's job had been on the line tonight and he was going because of a point tonight, I think he could be pretty disappointed with that performance. And I don't think either manager will be scoring him highly in terms of performance. I thought he was bad both ways at time, but the big decisions seemed to go Swansea's way tonight. And yeah, I'd love to be saying that after we've nicked one in the last minute. But I mean, to sum it, he blew on bang on 3 minutes injury time. Despite how long the ball was out of play, it says 3 minutes, so I'm going to have to blow now. I can't manage this game myself. I just thought he was very poor. He was up there in the Gavin Ward category for me.
He was. I don't like to call out refs too much, but this one, he really affected the game in a negative way, and particularly against Rovers as well. And maybe on another day, if a decision goes our way, or there's more flow in the game, or whatever, maybe we get the result that we need. But yeah, I did want to just talk about him briefly because I thought it was a poor performance. I thought it really was. Although I will concede, on first view, I did think the Swansea penalty was a penalty, so I can understand without his replays why he's given it. Obviously, the replay clearly shows it was debatable. So, the more I see it, the less I think it's a penalty. But I can understand why he did.
And his lack of use of his assistants as well. Yes. I don't think he ever went over to a linesman, even for like the Brereton one early on. It's like, your linesman's on that side. Just go ask him, listen to what he's got to say instead of just, nope, carry on, and then give him 1 2 minutes later. It set the tone for me, and you're getting that process. We're not going to get anything here, and you're kind of on tiptoes every time they came in our box after he gave that one, and they weren't afraid to kind of fall on the floor either, were they, Swansea, and peel for things, which was which if it works, you do it, don't you? Mentioned in the commentary, we don't do it enough. Great to see Tribal at the weekend throwing the spur balls away. Not done that enough for me this season. It's not our fault if the ref lets you do it. Carry on with it.
Oh, Chris and Matt competing with each other for Simon as well. We'll just have a little vote. Simon, I'm no footballer, but I know more than the ref, and so does my nana. Chris, my nana could have done a better job too. She died 14 years ago. Matt, Robert Jones says sorry when he bumps into mannequins in Primark. Those three have tickled me, guys. Just before we finish then, Leap Year Man's comment here, controversial, but seems we're looking better without Armour in the side. Good signs for next season. I think the thing that's really stood out for me, Leap Year, is two things. If you think about Armour's time at the club, in League One, he was on that left wing and not really in Dak's spaces. He wasn't our main striker. He was on the left wing. In the Championship, we were actually critical of the number of goals that he wasn't getting in the Championship when we first came up. He got a very low amount, I seem to remember. Dak gets the injury, and then he's obviously come into his own. Since he's been out the side, I look at the 2 goals Bradley Dack scored in these last 2 games, and I think Armstrong's in that position. Armstrong's the one receiving the ball from Joe Rankin Costello against Millwall, and tonight, Armstrong's the one who's getting the ball threaded to him by Tom Tribal. So I think there is an argument to be made that, particularly without Adam Armstrong in the side, Bradley Dack plays better, and is it affecting that overall fluidity? So it is one to watch. But I really don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and sit here and advocate getting rid of a 20-goal striker. Absolutely not. Where we are at with Armour now is we get the right price for him. And if it's not the right price, if we're getting pitiful offers from clubs, then to be honest, I think I'd just rather lose him on a free next summer. That's really where I'm at. Why throw the goals out of the side if we're not getting the right price and it doesn't fit that trading model? But let's just watch that one and see how he goes. But as soon as he's back fit, as Glenn says, Mowbray's got lucky with the little niggly injury that he's got. I fully expect him to be back in the side when he is fit. That's how it's going to be. But, there we go. Didn't mean to click on Robert Jones's massive underfounded ego. So there we go. I think we will wrap it up there, guys. It is hard talking about a dead rubber game, isn't it, when we can't get excited about the playoffs or fighting relegation or anything. But I think we've done a good job. We've chatted for an hour and 15 about next season, and we've strayed away from talking about the manager as well. So thank you to the 3 of you for contributing, and Dave for you coming on the show as well. I think it's going to be like this for the next few weeks now. Plenty of talking points, plenty of things to discuss about next season. Does Armour stay? Does he go? Does Dak start? Does he not? This is going to be all the talking points over those next few weeks. So please keep joining us, Rovers fans, on our live streams. We really do love the interactions that you bring us. We really love the questions that you pose as well. It helps us just keep the conversations going. Just a reminder, if you are not following us on our new Rovers Chat Twitter account, if I can find the overlay of where it is, I will be able to show you. I thought it was on here. No, that is roverschat.com. It's gone somewhere, but it's roverschat_ is our Twitter handle. We are, of course, sponsored by Blue Rose Capital and 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐒.com. And if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please give this video a like and our other videos a big like as well. And please hit that bell notification to see when our next video content is live. So we'll be back on Thursday night with On the Other Side, ready for the Brentford game. Friday evening game, just a reminder to everyone, it was 6 p.m. tonight, Friday night game against Brentford. Make sure you don't miss it. It's not Saturday. We won't be here. We'll be doing other things on Saturday, but you can join us on Friday. But I just want to say thanks, Glenn, Alex, Ollie. It's actually reasonable o'clock, and we've got a little bit of the evening left after an evening game, so that's pleasant. So enjoy the rest of your evenings as well. And Rovers fans, thanks for joining us, and we will see you all soon. See you later.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 𝐒𝐏𝐻𝐒𝐓𝐄. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.